My friends, imagine this. There's a man who can't stop thinking about you. Every time you cross his mind, it's not just curiosity, it's a craving. You're not just someone he likes, you're in need. Not because you played games, not because you chased, but because something about your presence, the way you show up, the energy you bring, the way you hold space and withdraw just right, has triggered something chemical in him. When we think about addiction, our minds usually go to substances, alcohol, sugar, caffeine. But emotional addiction, that's the real game changer. And it's happening to people all the time without them realizing it. Here's the secret. You can actually trigger the kind of emotional chemistry in someone that makes your presence feel like a drug they didn't know they needed. Not because you're manipulating anything, but because you understand how attraction really works underneath the surface. Now let's talk about the science behind this. Emotional addiction is deeply rooted in how our brains respond to certain stimuli. When someone experiences something that gives them emotional highs, like the thrill of being noticed, the mystery of not knowing what's coming next, or the validation of feeling desired, their brain releases chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. These are the same chemicals released when someone eats their favorite dessert or hits a big goal. In short, you can become someone's emotional dessert. Here's where it gets powerful. If you consistently create an experience where a man feels both emotionally stimulated and seen, his brain will start to associate you with that high. That's when attraction goes from being casual to chemical. And that's when you become unforgettable, not just for how you look or what you say, but for how you make him feel. Let's break this down further. Dopamine, the pleasure molecule, is released when there's anticipation and reward. So when you create just the right amount of uncertainty, challenge, and reward in your interactions, you create what psychologists call the dopamine loop. That's the cycle where his brain gets used to expecting a high around you and starts seeking it out over and over again. Think about it. Why do we check our phones hundreds of times a day? It's not because there's always something exciting there. It's because sometimes there is, and that maybe feeling is addictive. The same principle applies to attraction. If every interaction with you is predictable, flat, or overly available, the emotional hit drops off. But when you're mysterious, yet warm, independent, yet present, and when you reveal yourself slowly instead of all at once, you activate the same reward center in the brain that causes us to chase the high. But this isn't just about chemistry. It's also about emotionally intelligent connection. Because the truth is, you can't fake real presence. You can't fake the energy of someone who knows their worth, who's selective, and who doesn't base their value on whether or not they're liked. When you bring that grounded confidence into a conversation, it disorients someone in the best way. It's so rare that it wakes people up. So many women are chasing validation when they are the reward. When you start acting like it, something shifts. You stop trying to be chosen and you become the chooser. You stop overgiving and start evoking something deeper in him, the desire to show up, to win your attention, to earn your intimacy. When you combine emotional awareness with strategic presence, you make it nearly impossible for someone to experience you and then forget you. You become a part of their mind, their emotions, and their chemistry, not by forcing anything, but by learning how to activate the emotional cycle of connection that makes someone come back for more again and again. That's how emotional addiction works. And that's the first step in mastering the attraction cycle. Let me know if you'd like to expand the next keynote or build out more of the speech. Here's the expanded version of the second keynote delivered in a smooth, speech-ready format. No headings. Now let's talk about something that almost no one understands, but everyone feels: the dopamine loop. It's not just a scientific term. It's the invisible engine behind why we chase people, why we stay interested, and why we can't stop thinking about someone long after they're gone. If you can master this loop, you hold the keys to making someone feel addicted, not to an idea of you, but to your actual presence. And the best part? It doesn't require being fake, flashy, or playing hard to get in some cliche way. It requires understanding how desire actually builds. Here's how the dopamine loop works. When the brain senses a potential reward, but doesn't know exactly when or how it's coming, it lights up like a firework. Dopamine is released in anticipation, not just in the moment of reward. So it's not the gift itself that gets someone hooked. It's the build-up. It's the space between interactions. It's the almost, the maybe, the I don't know where I stand, but I want to find out. That tension, that's the loop. Now apply this to attraction. Most people are trying to win someone over by over-delivering up front. They give too much access too soon. They explain everything. They reply instantly. They reveal their deepest thoughts before the other person has even earned that privilege. But when you do that, you collapse the loop. You give the reward too early, and the brain doesn't have to work for it anymore. And just like that, the chemical high fades. Think of your presence as a rhythm. You show up, connect deeply, then pull back. Not as a game, but because you're busy, because you have a full life, because you're not waiting around to be chosen. That space, when used with warmth and intention, is what creates the addictive cycle. It keeps someone wondering, what's next? When will I see her again? What does she think of me? That curiosity is gold. It's the raw material of attraction. You don't have to say anything special. You just have to allow room for their mind to start doing the work. Scarcity intensifies desire. And I don't mean acting cold or distant. I mean being intentional, letting the moments with you mean something, because they're not happening all the time. When you give someone your full attention, your presence, your energy, and then you let the moment end, it leaves a trace. Their brain gets used to the high and then starts seeking the next hit. That's the dopamine loop in action. This is why sometimes people get obsessed after just a few amazing interactions. It wasn't that those moments were long, it's that they were potent. It wasn't about how much time you spent together, it's about how charged that time felt. And the contrast between intensity and space is what makes someone crave more. What can you do to activate this in your own life? Be less available, but more intentional. Don't rush to respond. Don't overshare too fast. Allow mystery to exist. Ask more questions than you answer. Don't plan your next message while they're still replying to the last one. Let things breathe. Let them wonder. Let them lean in. And most importantly, don't fill every silence. Because that's silence. That's not distance. That's space for the loop to do its work. That's the pause that builds anticipation. That's where the craving is born. When you understand this loop, you stop chasing and start drawing in, not with force, but with emotional chemistry. And once someone enters that cycle with you, they don't just want to be around you, they need to be. That's how you shift from attention to obsession. That's how you spark the chemical fire that doesn't burn out quickly. That's how you become the highlight in someone's emotional world, not just another notification. Let me know if you'd like me to move on to the third keynote or continue building from here. Of course. Here's the expanded version of the third keynote without headings, written in a naturally flowing, captivating tone. There's a kind of power that doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't chase. It simply is. That's the power of self-possession. The quiet confidence that radiates from someone who knows who they are, what they bring to the table, and refuses to shrink or chase to prove it. And when it comes to attraction, this kind of energy is magnetic. It doesn't just pull someone in, it holds them there. It creates a sense of mystery, respect, and even awe, because in a world full of people who are constantly trying to be enough, the one who already knows they are stands out like a lighthouse. Self-possession is about owning your value before anyone else validates it. It's not arrogance, it's not indifference, it's presence. It's the ability to walk into a room without needing to be the loudest voice, but still command attention with the way you carry yourself. It's the woman who doesn't flinch when there's silence, the one who doesn't explain herself unnecessarily, the one who doesn't rush to fill in gaps or apologize for her standards. A person grounded in their self-worth becomes a mirror. When someone is around you and senses that you value your time, your peace, and your boundaries, they rise to meet you, or they fall away. That's the power of energetic filtering. You're no longer attracting people who are only interested in what they can get from you. You start attracting those who are willing to invest because they feel the difference between someone who's desperate for attention and someone who doesn't need attention to feel whole. What's beautiful about this kind of confidence is that it doesn't require perfection. You don't need to look a certain way or have everything figured out. In fact, self-possession often shines through your imperfections because you're not hiding them. You're not contorting yourself to fit someone else's preferences. You're not afraid of being misunderstood or rejected because your self-worth isn't hanging on their opinion. And this confidence creates emotional safety because the person in front of you knows that you're not going to fall apart if they pull back. You're not going to beg, chase, or lose your identity in the pursuit of their validation. That emotional stability becomes irresistible because when someone sees that you're fine with or without them, they realize they're not in control of your emotions. And ironically, that's what makes them want to earn a place in your world. Let's be real, this kind of energy isn't always celebrated. It can intimidate people who aren't used to it. It can repel those who thrive on control or chaos. But that's a good thing because self-possession is a filter. It keeps the wrong people out so the right ones can come in. And when it comes to attraction, real, lasting, emotionally charged attraction, this kind of presence creates something rare. It makes someone feel like you're the prize. Not because you're playing games, but because you've already chosen yourself. You've already filled your own cup. You've already become the kind of woman who doesn't chase energy, she attracts it. When you hold your space with grace, when you stop over-explaining, when you start believing that your time, your love, and your presence are valuable without needing external proof, you unlock a different level of chemistry. You move from being liked to being craved. You stop being an option and you become an experience. And that's when attraction shifts from surface level to something deeper, something that doesn't fade when the novelty wears off. That's when they don't just want your body, your beauty, or your attention. They want your essence. Let me know if you'd like to expand the fourth keynote next. Hello? Absolutely. Here's the expanded version of the fourth keynote, again, written in a natural and emotionally resonant tone with no headings. If there's one equation in attraction that most people overlook, it's this: tension over time equals desire. It's not just about chemistry. It's about timing, pacing, and how you manage the emotional space between two people. Real attraction doesn't explode instantly and burn out. It builds, it deepens. And when it's done right, it leaves a lasting mark, something that keeps someone curious, engaged, and emotionally invested. Not because of manipulation, but because of intelligent emotional pacing. We live in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Everything is available now. Swipe right, text fast, binge watch. And yet, when it comes to people, especially love and attraction, the human heart doesn't work like an algorithm. It works like a story. And the best stories, they build tension. They stretch you. They keep you wondering what's next. That's where the magic happens, not in the moment of fulfillment, but in the space leading up to it. And right from the beginning, you give them all of you, every thought, every moment of your time, every detail about your life. It may feel like connection, but often what you're actually doing is removing all the mystery. You're giving them the final chapter before they've even read the first. And when you skip the journey, the emotional payoff disappears. Because desire isn't built on knowing everything right away. It's built on unfolding. This is where tension comes in. Tension isn't a negative thing. It's the heartbeat of attraction. It's the little moments of uncertainty, the pauses, the delayed gratification. It's the will she text back? The what did that look mean? The I can't wait to see her again feeling. Those moments of not knowing create anticipation. And anticipation is a powerful emotional drug. But here's the thing, tension alone isn't enough. You need time. Time allows for experiences to deepen, for patterns to form, and for emotions to anchor. If you try to rush attraction, intensity, too fast, jump ahead to vulnerability or intimacy without emotional investment, you shortcut the cycle. You may get attention, even lust, but you won't get depth. You won't get the kind of desire that lingers long after you're gone. So how do you balance this? You give just enough. You show up with energy, with presence, with real connection, but then you let it breathe. You don't follow up immediately every time. You don't rush to fix the silence. You don't fill every gap with words or reassurance. You understand that letting someone miss you isn't a loss of momentum, it's the creation of it. That pullback, that restraint, is powerful. It creates the feeling of earning you. And when someone feels they're earning your attention, your time, your affection, they value it more. They lean in, they remember, because the desire wasn't handed to them. It was built moment by moment with patience and intention. Think about the most unforgettable moments in your life, the ones that made your heart race, the ones that made you ache. I promise you, those moments had tension. They weren't always easy, but they were charged. And the reason you remember them isn't because they were constant, it's because they were rare, because they came with a build-up. That's what you want to create in your connections. Not a rush, not a high that fades overnight, but a slow burn. Something that starts as a spark and grows into something undeniable. Tension over time, that's what creates craving. That's what turns a nice interaction into a magnetic memory. That's how you go from being liked to being longed for. Let me know if you'd like to move on to the final keynote. Absolutely. Here's the expanded version of the fifth keynote, again written in an engaging and emotionally powerful tone with no headings or labels. So many people are chasing attention. They want someone to like their photos, text them back, tell them they're pretty, or show interest. But attention fades. It's easy to get and even easier to lose. What really matters, what really changes the game is knowing how to transition from attention to investment. Because attention is about being noticed, but investment is about being chosen. This is where most connections fall apart. Things start with a spark, texts flying back and forth, compliments, fun dates, but then it fizzles. Why? Because too often people mistake engagement for commitment. They think interest means intention, but interest is just the beginning, it's surface level. Investment, on the other hand, happens when someone starts to emotionally lean in, when they start to care about your well-being, respect your time, and factor you into their future. So how do you make that shift? How do you go from being a moment in someone's day to becoming someone they don't want to lose? Purpose. With emotional depth, they invest because you've become a catalyst, not just a companion. And here's the beautiful part. When someone is emotionally investing in you, they're also bonding with you. Every thoughtful action they take, every moment of patience, every time they choose to understand instead of assume, it wires their brain to value you more. This isn't manipulation. This is just chemistry meeting standards. Anyone can get attention, but making someone feel something meaningful, that's rare. And when you hold space for real investment to take place, you stop being a temporary fix. You stop being entertainment. You start becoming a part of their emotional identity. You're not just the person they enjoy, you're the person they respect, remember, and keep showing up for. And that's the final phase of the attraction cycle, the shift from desire to devotion, the point where he's not just excited to see you, he's emotionally anchored to you. Because you didn't just grab his attention, you made him earn your world. And now that he's inside it, he doesn't want to leave. Would you like me to now transition this into the full speech? You've just uncovered the inner blueprint of something most people never even think to master, the attraction cycle. It's not about tricks, manipulation, or changing who you are. It's about understanding the deeper forces that actually drive human connection, chemistry, anticipation, presence, self-worth, and emotional pacing. These are not just abstract concepts, they're tools. And when you use them with clarity and intention, you create more than just interest, you create impact. You now know the truth. Lasting attraction isn't built in grand gestures or perfect looks. It's built in the energy you bring into a space. It's how you hold your power without flaunting it. It's how you create emotional tension without playing games. It's how you allow someone the space to want you instead of always trying to convince them why they should. Let them feel you. Let them wonder. Let them chase. Not because you're withholding, but because you're full. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing you. You're not begging for attention. You're inspiring investment. You're not asking someone to love you louder. You're becoming someone they can't ignore. And remember, the most magnetic people aren't loud, desperate, or perfect. They're the ones who know their worth in silence. They create emotional chemistry just by being real, present, and intentional. That's who you become when you embody everything we've explored today.